Well, there's that music. And normally I would start this thing with an intro about who my guest is this week. But it's been so long that I actually haven't booked any. So this intro is me talking over the music, getting you ready for the episode, which is still do, did, will. But we're going to focus on other things around those three categories. There just happens to be music in the background. So Do Did Will, the Story of People podcast has returned, and it begins right now. And I couldn't be more excited to be back in front of a microphone, in front of the computer, in a random hotel around the world. I love recording at this little makeshift studio that I have at home with the, Amazon fake background behind me and doing all the video and the things that go with it. But it just has been so insanely crazy the last, what has it been? 6 months? 7 months? I can't remember even the last time I put an episode out. Not without trying. I definitely dug my heels in and attempted to make an episode or two. I couldn't get there. If I'm not feeling creative, it's not going to happen. And that's sort of where I went. I went to a very non-creative space for a while. I had powered through a ton of episodes to build the DoDidWill brand, built a really great following, some amazing guests, of which I'll update you with today, because a lot of them have done amazing things since they've been on the show. Not because of the show, but since they've been on the show, amazing things have happened. And I wasn't feeling particularly creative. I was feeling drained, actually. I had come off an extremely busy touring season last year that took me, I don't know what it was, 45 countries, and I still tried to, make it happen. And I also had some time in there with my good friend Chris Machete over at Machete Comics, and we were doing a bunch of stuff like every Monday, and his schedule got insane and my schedule got insane, and then it just turned into, I have no time to actually physically sit in front of a microphone and yatter on a bunch of things that people might be interested in. For the most part, the feedback that I'm getting from you all is that you have been interested in what I've had to say as far as bringing guests on and talk about their journey, what they do, how they did it, and what they'll do next. My mission with this brand, DoDidWill, has always been to turn this into a kind of a TED Talky vibe and eventually get to that spot where I can start doing live events and bringing people in to do this live around the world. It would be amazing. That is something that is obviously going to take a long time to build, but the foundation is there. And the thing is, it's not unique. Every podcast on the planet is asking people, how did they do it? And tell me about your movie and how did you become an actor and all that. It's there. But I feel like the base of DoDidWill has an opportunity to expand out to other things. And I've always wanted to talk about some other things. Somebody told me, I think it was Matt Kundle, who's a great muse for me in this podcast space, had told me one time that people may tune in just to hear you. They may not tune in to hear the guest. And, I'll humbly say thank you very much if that is the case. If you're tuning in to hear me just yatter on into a microphone, thank you very much. But I like to think that the guests that are coming into the mix here are bringing such amazing stories to the table that you're actually coming to hear about their journey. However, in this particular case, as I slowly come back into relaunching this idea and sitting in front of a microphone and sitting in front of a computer and saying things that people may or may not connect with, I do still want to focus on those three categories: do, did, and will, and what they mean, because there's so many places that we can go. And one of the things that I've really entertained doing was kind of getting into a wee bit of a weekly idea of, what do you do in this situation, or what did you do in this situation, or what will you do in this situation? So that's more question based. It's very interactive for you, the listener, where it's like, what would you do if this happened? How did you react to it if it did happen to you, and what will you do next to handle it? You see what I'm saying? There's some things that we can do in there. We can dive into many different things. There's so many subjects that are happening around the world, and so many things that are going on that many smart people around this planet are talking about it, that are way more educated than me when it comes to actually being an expert and being able to weigh in on what this stuff means. However, it doesn't mean that I don't get to have an opinion about something, and I want to turn that into a situation where it's really about these three topics: do, did, and will. And I think it opens the door. And we can reinvent ourselves a million times. Every podcast generally does it. I've been Brenton on tour. I've been Brenton not on tour. I've had the Journey for Java, which has been coffee based, and me trying to find all these great coffee stories from around the world. All of them have had a nice little base. All of them have moved me forward and helped me be extremely creative and kind of carve out a bunch of different things. One of the things, though, that comes with having a podcast like this and trying to get engagement and trying to get people to listen, or at least be, interested in what it is that you have to say, is just the marketing and the things that go into it. Now, anything worth doing, you got to do it. You got to work hard at it. You got to go, put everything into it. And I did that for a very long time. I subscribed to all the things. I was on YouTube studying, algorithms and all this stuff like everybody else was doing. And hey, there was progress. I mean, we got to 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel pretty quick. And we got to a few little milestones when it came to that side of things. But, then I look at some of these shows that aren't on video. And they must have these really great bases. Now, a lot of people that are coming into this space obviously are a celebrity of some kind, potentially, or they had a radio show before on a radio station. Maybe they're on Sirius XM. There's a bunch of different avenues that people have taken into this space that have brought an audience with them that I didn't have. I had to build this thing from scratch, and there are many of you, and I really appreciate you sticking around. The video component, I've been told for many, many, many years, has been necessary, and it's there. I can't do interview style. I can't sit in a room with a full CNN production, Fox News production, MSNBC production, News Nation production, with the lighting and all the rest of it. So I've gone lo-fi. I've restream, and I send a link out, and people join me on video, and it's been really fun to have that split screen and do that sort of interview style that I like to do. It's been amazing. But I also just enjoy talking about what's going on in the world. And I am curious, as you, the listener, as you've come along on this journey with me, if that's something that you would be interested in listening to. I bring somebody in and talk about it and get an opinion. That's fine. But I'm not sure that the video component of it is going to work in that format anymore, because there's just so many things that and so many shows that I listen to podcast wise that aren't video based. You've got your marketing, and you've got some things that you have to get out there, obviously, and market a little bit to get some things out there. But I still think there's something to be said about that person that's commuting in on the subway or in their car that doesn't have access to video, and they're still listening. Almost all the podcasts that I listen to are in my ears. I actually don't sit and watch podcasts anymore, even when they're done on video. You got Bill Maher doing Club Random, two people sitting in his basement. He's getting high. The other one's just sitting there answering his questions. You've got so many different versions of these kind of interviews, and I know that people like to watch people speak, but I'm not necessarily married to this idea of video unless there's the whole presentation. So I think my plan here is I'm going to bring maybe some people in on video when there's that interview, and maybe I want to talk about something, the round table maybe, and we can dive in, and it might provide a little bit of cool interview space and things like that. But I think for the most part, I'm going to circle back to what started this whole thing for me, which was going in an audio format. And I loved, being able to have some subjects in front of me, talk about them, get your opinion about them. I really liked what I was doing for a little while there with Sunday Night Storytime, and we only did a handful of them, but it was really cool bringing guests into non-video to tell a story about, different things. And we told one about the Foo Fighters, Anthony Bourdain, and I think that there's weight there, and I think it's a great Sunday night show, and I want to revisit doing that as well. So I wanted to come on here and kind of just reintroduce myself and say, hey, I know it's been a while. You probably have deleted this since and been like, well, he hasn't put an episode out in 8 months, so I'm going to stop. And I appreciate it. You have to come back and find this again. But I think that the DoDidWill and the Story of People podcast concept can cross over here to current events and news and music and all these different things, because there's still people involved and it's still the story of people. So we're going to just change things a tiny little bit, and I'm going to try to do the next handful of episodes on maybe just some audio. And when I have a particular subject, like if I feel like getting particularly political, I'm not that person, but perhaps there's a round table of politicalness there where we can bring 4 people in to talk about a certain subject, like every other talking head that's going on out there. But it'll live in the middle. I'll bring people from the right, I'll bring people from the left, but it's going to middle based. The questions aren't going to be pushing any agenda. It's literally like dumbing it down. There's that. Music wise, there's always some great new music that comes out. And I posted a bit on my Instagram on Brenton on Tour, or you can find it at DoDidWill, and Journey for Java, where I post coffee. But I like to post music that I find, and it's like it would be really cool to be able to talk about that on here. How do you feel about this new song? How did you react to it? What will you search out next? So that's kind of fun to kind of go down that road. I'm just not really allowed to play music on here, so we kind of have to play a little bit of, around on that to see how we're going to pull that off. The occasional book I'm kind of pulling off. So I like to kind of get some opinions on that. And plus there's everything that's going on in the world. There's war, there's elections, there's controversy in Hollywood at all points. There's killer new movies that are coming out. There's so many things. And now people will say to me, listen, you got to stick to a niche. You got to focus. You've got to, you're going to get lost in the shuffle of the news shows and all the rest of it. The various categories that exist in Apple and Spotify and all these things. If you don't focus on, you're going to get lost. That may be the case. It's certainly not going to be funny enough to be in comedy. It's not going to be political enough to be in any of those kind of news or noteworthy shows. So where's it going to live? It's going to kind of live just in this arts and entertainment, social kind of experiment of things. And I guess we'll just kind of see if we can carve out a little bit of, some guests out of that, and some weight and some movement out of that. So yeah, that's kind of what has been in my brain. I haven't been feeling, very creative, if I got to be honest with you. And then it did hit me a little while ago as I started going back on tour, and I started kind of wrapping my head around touring again after being off for the summer, which was amazing, and just where I want to be and how I want to spend my time on tour, and being creative is one of it. I've bought a little MIDI player so I can try to create some music and stuff while I'm out here, and I'm really anxious to get creative again, which is something I feel like I've missed as I focus on building a career and all the things that come with that. So there's the update on DoDidWill as far as what's been going on that side of it, and why it's been sort of out of the equation for a little while. So I appreciate you sticking around. I appreciate your patience, and I know that's maybe perhaps I'm going to have to find you. I'm going to have to go find new listeners again and say, hey, I'm back. Don't forget about me. Here we are. I think I've even lost the Twitter page already. So who knows? I'm going to have to chase some things down and try to find it. You can still find DoDidWill and the other stories that we've done on YouTube. Now, speaking of that, since I launched the show way back when and had some fun with DoDidWill, we've had a whole boatload of guests on, which has been a real fun trip for me. And always amazing to speak to people and just dive into their journey. I love that. I think we do it as human beings. We do it almost all the time anyways. And it's just, as we're meeting people in life, we just kind of go through that process and say, who are you and how did you get this job and what's next for you, and all the standard stuff that we ask when we meet people for the first time. But there has been some really amazing things that have happened on this, this journey, and some of the people that have decided to come on the show have been really, really amazing, and they've done some really great stuff. So I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on some stuff. So there's been, a big, Ariana Hunsicker. She was on the show as one of the first guests that I had on the show when we relaunched, and she was training at that time to be part of Team Canada for the Paralympics, which just happened in Paris. And guess what? She made it. She competed, and she represented Canada. And it was incredible to watch. And to see that journey happen, and to have her talk about it on this show, and that it was a dream of hers to have happen, and it did. I couldn't be more excited for her. It was amazing. So a huge congrats to her. My friend Tara Sloan moves from San Jose back to Toronto, lands an amazing gig with SiriusXM Radio, has a show again, and then also gets invited back by the San Jose Sharks to be broadcast for them, for all the Sharks broadcasts, and also to relaunch the Undercurrent podcast for NBC. So and the Sharks. So that's an amazing accomplishment again. And she was my first guest on DoDidWill. So I'm very, very excited for her journey, because every single time I talk to her, she's got some new adventure, and it's amazing. And she is doing amazing, and she is I'm hoping to see her in Toronto in a couple of weeks when I'm in town. My friend Jackie Halawadi, she came on the show when she was a member of the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, which is where I am currently recording this. She ended up moving on from there and is now at the Seattle Zoo, and this incredible gig, and they do live music there, and she's got this really creative space there, and she's gone on to incredible stuff there. So I mean, all changes. So I'm just giving you updates on all these people. Army Chris, a 25-year veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces, took a break from podcasting for a while. An incredible story, this guy who represented Canada over there and served his country bravely, and is restarting his podcast, which is incredible. And I love his podcast. So the Fire for Effect podcast returns for him, and he's going to be having more personal one-on-one conversations with all people from all walks of life, but definitely going to be military-based and Army-based, and sort of some of those journeys. And I highly recommend that you take a jump over there and check that out. My partner in crime over at Machete Comics, at the Live from Machete Comics podcast, Chris Machete. Let me tell you about this guy. He has always had a mission to have his own comic. We've talked about that. And he started started that and just did incredible things with that. But he also started the Cult of Machete, which is this incredible comic book series, and he partnered with our pal John Guarneri, who is security for all sorts of big bands all over the world, Motley Crue and Shinedown, Nickelback, and they partnered up to write this really great sort of heavy metal kind of, remember heavy metal from the 80s, that kind of comic book style, or Creep Show, where there's all these different like stories that happen within the story, and they partnered up and they sold out their first print and comic, and Cult of Machete number 2 is on the way shortly. I mean, geez, talk about going after a dream and getting it. I mean, come on. I'm so stoked for them, and just amazing. So that was great. John Ross Bowie, who was on Big Bang Theory, he came on during the writer's strike, and they were really pushing and really pushing to get that strike over and done with, and that ended, and he's back to performing and back to Hollywood and acting and doing all that stuff again. So that's worked out really well for them. Charles Adler, I had Charles Adler on, who he's an Emmy award-winning broadcaster. He's got an incredible show called the Charles Adler Show, and he's recently become a Canadian senator. And I mean, who better? This guy is like one of the smartest people on the planet, and we need those people in government. And despite what people may think politically on either side, it's still better to have smart people in there than dumb people. So good for him. He landed that gig. Renee Paquette, what can't we say about Renee Paquette? AEW, she's always killing it and continues to just slay for AEW wrestling and broadcasting. Her husband is doing incredible business down there. That company is on fire, doing amazing stuff. So she's still doing so great. There's so many things just going on right now. My pal Darren Millard, he's a host of the Vegas Golden Knights in the Chirp podcast. The NHL starts up again here in any day, and he will continue his gig with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. So there's so many cool things kind of going on there. All these guests have had really great, really great years in another year. So I encourage you to go back, if you got some time, to listen to some of those old podcasts and just see where the people were then, because it's kind of fun. Go back to what they were trying to do and what they were thinking about doing and what they were up to at the time, and then search them online and find out where they are now, because there's some amazing stories happening there. So please, if you get a moment, I'll happily take the like and the re-listen and stuff, and maybe it'll put us back into some kind of, I don't know, rank in there somewhere. Who knows? What do you think of everything that's happening in America right now politically, and Canada politically? Canada politically is generally behind 6 months or so. So whatever America does, Canada likes to follow in some capacity. You saw that happen with Barack Obama and then Justin Trudeau. Now you're seeing this sort of like Trumpy thing happening in America. Potentially, is he going to win? Is he going to lose? Is Harris going to win? Is she going to lose? What happens in Canada after that? There's a substantial amount of people that want Trudeau out and want Poilievre in. Is it going to fix anything? Is it going to fix high groceries? Is it going to fix inflation? I mean, what do you think of what's going on in those two particular situations? There's just, Lincoln Park is back. Lincoln Park started up again and did a bunch of, in the process of doing a bunch of sold out shows, but not without controversy, as the singer of that band is kind of mired in controversy, as she is a Scientologist. She was, and maybe potentially is, still friends with Danny Masterson from that 70s show that that went away for all that Me Too stuff and beyond. And, that was a very controversial move by that band to bring her in to replace Chester Bennington, which they will argue is not replacing him, as the fans have quote unquote replaced him. But what do you think of this move by Lincoln Park, bringing in Emily as the new singer? I think she sounds great. The diehards will always have a problem. I went and saw Pantera down here open up for Metallica a couple weeks ago in Seattle, and me as a diehard Pantera fan struggled with this idea of it being called that, and struggled for a very long time. But as Corey Taylor from Slipknot says, you're going to hate this, you're going to hate it, and then you're going to go see it. It's kind of exactly what happened. I was sort of like, okay. And then I went and saw it. And Charlie Benante and Zach Wild are doing amazing work, and I think it pays great tribute to the brothers, Daryl and Vinny, and I think they did a great job of paying tribute to them. So again, there's something else to talk about. There's so much going on in music. There's so much going on in the world. I've also been traveling the world since, and have been it's had the pleasure of spending so much time in Israel last year, and then we have all this going on, and it's been a year. It's coming up on almost a year since all this tragedy happened over there. And I'm not going to even dive into the political side of this or any of that side of it, but I'm just saying how beautiful of a place it was to visit, and then how sad it's been to watch what's going on all the way around. And I'm hoping that gets resolved soon. What do you think of everything that's going on there? So you see, I have this opportunity to kind of cover a lot of things with these 3 subjects, and that's kind of what I want to do. I want to dive into these subjects. I want to dive into all of these kind of things, and it would be great to have some people on to talk about it. It'd be great to kind of get your opinion about it. I think I want to set up some kind of like a voice note thing where people can leave voice notes and we can answer questions and things like that. So I guess as we grow through the process and rebuild this thing back up, that's the plan. But again, going to live in the middle, not going to get political. I just want to talk about what's going on in the world, where you might be landing on the whole thing. Give me your opinion or not. But hey, if you're listening, at least we're in this together, and we're talking about world subjects and all that. So that's kind of where it's at. I'm going to leave you at that. I don't want to go much more than this 30 minutes here. I thought it'd be nice to talk about this during maybe your commute to work, give you a bit of an update as to what I've been up to. Deeply apologize for being away for so long, but also welcome back. Hopefully you're still around. Hopefully you're excited to hear some of these stories and talk about some of these subjects. Traditionally, I was putting these things out on Wednesdays. I'm actually going to put this thing out tomorrow on Monday, just to kind of kick things off, the 23rd of September. And then I think I'll just kind of keep plugging away here, trying to do something every Sunday night to kind of talk about what happened the week before, and we'll do something with that. We're going to stick to audio now. I don't know if I'll be doing video for a little while, but you'll see little snippets and things out there. All right, friends. DoDidWill, the Story of People podcast is back. It looks a little new. It sounds a little bit new, but I think we're going to have some fun with this thing. Tell your friends. Come along for the ride. Join me, and let's talk about some stuff. People that do, people that did, people that will. What do you think? What did you think? What will you think? You see what I'm saying? Tons of stuff to cover. Thanks, everybody. DoDidWill, the Story of People podcast is back. And if you're here, welcome back too.